Welcome to the #1 source for information, news, and opinion on your Columbus Blue Jackets. This is CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. You can also find the audio version on the CBJ Radio SoundCloud page, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play Music, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now here's your host, Bob McElligott.
Welcome to CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. I'm Bob McElligott. The Blue Jackets hoping to get a little bit more sense of direction from the National Hockey League. Well, every team is hoping to get a little bit more of a sense of direction. There was a Board of Governors call earlier this week where it was discussed about having a draft in June. Are they going to have it? How are they going to have it? What's involved in all of that? I'm going to talk with Bruce Garrioch of Postmedia in Canada to get you up to date on a lot of what the discussion is right now, what the league is thinking, and what some of the players are thinking about not just the draft, but about coming back and actually playing hockey sometime this summer. But first, I want to tell you about Telhio Credit Union. Not only are they the great folks that bring you this show every single week, but also they're the people that can help you make sure you have your money in just the right spot. Make sure you have everything where you want to have it. Make sure you're getting the right return, all of those things. You can find out all about them by going to telhio.org. On their website, they've got all the information you need. See the different kind of accounts they have, personal accounts, business accounts. Just go through all the information there. If they don't have everything that where you can find it, and they will, but if there's something you would like to ask about, there's a live chat option on the right-hand side of the page you can click on. You can also call them and talk to them about it. They would be happy to give you all the information that you need. They'd be happy to have you on as part of their team. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in Central and Southwestern Ohio, and they are federally insured by NCUA. Right now, I want to welcome in Bruce Garrioch, who joins me from Ottawa, Ontario. He works for Postmedia Hockey. He writes the self-proclaimed best Sunday column in Canada, and I can attest to that. I read that column, Bruce, so I'm with you on that. But thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Okay, self-proclaimed. Jeff Rimmer said it once. I would say about 25 years ago, Bob, when he worked in Florida, and I've held him to it ever since. And I always say that to Jeff. I always say, you never should have told me that, Jeff.
It's a wonder he hasn't had you attribute him for the quote on your Twitter header, you know?
I did, but there was no room for him this time around.
All right, let's talk. You've been covering what's going on with the league here extensively. On Monday, there was a meeting of the Board of Governors, and the big topic is the draft. Is there going to be a June draft? Are they going to conduct a draft before potentially finishing the regular season? And if so, how is that going to work? I know that they didn't make any decisions on Monday. They are pushing it back. But, Bruce, there's not a lot of time if they really want to do this. They're going to have to make up their minds pretty quick, aren't they?
Yeah, I think we're probably looking at a decision either Monday by midweek next week, Bob. They'll make them some kind of decision on the draft. My sense is that they've done such a hard sell job on this that to me, and this is just my take, there's no going back on it now. And if Gary Bettman really wants this, and it's pretty clear that he and Bill Daly do really want this, then it's going to happen. And now it's a matter of the general managers getting their heads around it, and and them trying to figure out, number one, a format for the draft lottery, then number two, when the actual date of the draft is going to be. I guess as we talk here, you know, it's what, March 8th, and you're probably looking at a decision by the 12th or so. It's going to take at least a couple weeks to get a lottery together. I think we're looking at a mid-June to late June draft at this juncture.
So maybe on the timeline of where it was supposed to be when they had it scheduled for Montreal in late June. But yeah, you talked about the things that they have to go through. One of the big things is these conditional draft picks, because there are teams I think I read there was like 15 deals that have been done that, you know, there's conditions on these picks that have been traded from one team to another. In some cases, like New Jersey has a pick that originally belonged to Vancouver that, Tampa wound up with in the JT Miller trade. And then when they traded to get Blake Coleman, that pick went to New Jersey. So there are a lot of moving parts in figuring that stuff out, aren't there?
Yeah, and I think that's probably, to me, there's two huge hurdles for them. And that's one of them, and that the league has said they will give when they do make this decision, they will give each team 7 days to figure out what to do with the conditional picks. And if the two teams can't figure it out between themselves in that 7-day period, then they will both abide by what the league has decided. And I would assume that that's Colin Campbell's decision. They don't feel that the league certainly doesn't feel, in the memo I read on the weekend, the league certainly doesn't feel that this is going to be a difficult decision, Bob, but I think it's going to be difficult for the general managers. And I think the other huge hurdle is, what format is the lottery going to take? There's been a lot of discussion about how this lottery should be weighted. They are thinking of going back to the old format of just putting in 15 teams with one winner and only one, and you can only move up 4 spots. They're also looking at going with the current scenario where every team is in the lottery. Of course, the concern there is that a team could win the lottery and win the Stanley Cup. But I think one of the things that was discussed in that conference call, and I think there is a lot of pushback on going to just 15 teams in the lottery. I think that the teams that are still in the playoff picture, they want their cake and they want to eat it too. If they're going to give into this format of going to an earlier draft, so there's a lot to be decided, and there's a lot that's why I think the league wants to make sure they get it right, and that's why I think they gave themselves kind of this week to 10-day window where they can make some kind of decision.
Obviously, the NFL was very successful with a virtual draft, and I'm sure that plays into why the NHL is talking about doing this. Now, look, it's not going to have drive the same numbers that the NFL draft did. There's no question about that. But how important do you get the feeling it is to the league to, kind of take this empty space? There are no sports going on. There is a void there. The league and the broadcast partners, how much do you get the feeling that they really want to take advantage of this? Maybe you'll even get yourself a little bit more publicity, notoriety than you would if it was a normal year and you were having your normal draft.
Well, and that's one of the things that Bill Daley's memo to the governor said before the call. It was, people are starved for sports. That there's nothing on TV right now, and this is a way to fill that void. And they did say, look, our broadcast partners in the United States and in Canada are very for this. They want us to do this, and because they're starving for content right now. And in some ways, I think the league needs to throw them a bone. But I think also the governors also see the fact that, if they wait till September, think about what if the National Football League will be back. At that point, we don't know what's going to happen with Major League Baseball. I think the Triple Crown races were all pushed back to the fall, weren't they? Right now, things
the Masters is pushed back to the fall right now.
Yeah, who knows in your town what's going to happen with college football, right? I mean, the thinking now is that college football will be in the fall, but who knows? I guess my sense is you're going to have a lot more to compete with in the fall, and I think that was one of the league's messages was, this is a time where there will be virtually no competition. In fact, we'll only be competing with ourselves if we don't do this. And the other thing I get from the league is that, you know what, these are, and this is an overused word, but these are unprecedented times, and maybe you have to act for the greater good of the league in this case, rather than just thinking about yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. And where you are right now in Ottawa, where you followed the Senators since day one there, these decisions are really important there because the Senators have a lot of draft picks. You've got Detroit and Ottawa right there hoping to get that number 1 overall pick. But for the Ottawa Senators, they have really accumulated a lot of draft picks here over the past couple of years. The Blue Jackets were involved in that, of course, with some of the trades that were made there. So what's the talk there in Ottawa, especially about this draft and how it might come down, because there's such importance on just the whole system and who winds up where, because there's there's a lot of talent that they can pick up here.
Well, I think the Senators absolutely support a draft in June before the season is completed, because I mean, who knows if they are going to play again. They look, Bob, they've got 3 picks in the first round. Under the old system, if the league uses that, the Senators could fall no further than 3 or 4 because they've got their own pick and they've got the pick that belongs to the San Jose Sharks as part of the Erik Karlsson deal. They also have a pick from the New York Islanders that they got for Jean-Gabriel Pageau on trade deadline day when they were in Columbus. So they've got that pick as well. They've got, I always get these numbers wrong. They've got 3 picks in the first round, 7 in the first 2 rounds, and they've got 13 overall. Now, did the Senators intend on going into this draft and making all those selections? No, I don't think so. I think, with 10 unrestricted free agents here going into the deadline, and really they moved a lot of those guys and didn't replace them. I think the intention was to go out and trade some of those draft picks for players, that could suit up next year. I think that's the only kind of, I don't know if fly in the ointment is the right word for the Senators, but that would be the only thing where Pierre Dorian's probably trying to look at this and figure out, okay, well, how do I manage this? And I guess that would just mean post-draft trades whenever the season is completed.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because we talk about this all the time. We talk about it at the trade deadline with players. Is now the time to make a trade? Is there more value in the summer when it comes to the draft? If you're going to have a draft before the season is potentially finished, how could you possibly trade players that are on your current roster to another team in order, to better your position, whether you're getting players, whether you're getting draft picks, whatever the case?
Yeah.
How are they going to get through that? Maybe it's not the biggest hurdle, but Bruce, that it's such a point of interest in the summer. And, we've seen Jarmo Kekalainen's done a couple of big summer deals here where he's gotten Brandon Saad and then Artemi Panarin from the Chicago Blackhawks. What happens with those kind of trades that you might make leading up to the draft?
Well, and that's where I think this gets interesting. And I mean, I've had some disagreements with people over this, and this was just suggested to me by some league executives, Bob, is are there, and I know, and you saw it firsthand going into the Vegas expansion draft. George McPhee made several side deals. In fact, on March 1st, he made a side deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins for Marc-Andre Fleury. And then Marc-Andre Fleury went on that spring to help the Pittsburgh Penguins win a Stanley Cup. Now, you could argue as to what role he played, but he did play in those playoffs.
I won't argue with you because I saw it firsthand, right up close, how important Marc-Andre Fleury was.
Yeah, and so, I think that you have to – that was a deal in pocket. And I just wonder if the league would allow – and I'm just throwing this out here. It's a theory that's out there amongst league executives right now. Would the league allow future consideration deals to say, okay, Ottawa's going to trade their 3rd pick in the first round, the Islanders pick, to somebody for future considerations? Now, the general manager of the team they're trading with would know who's coming back, but maybe that deal doesn't happen until A, the season is completed, or B, the season is canceled completely. I think that might be one way around it, because you can't. It's kind of weird to see teams signing players right now because, like, Ottawa signed Artyom Zub, a defenseman from the KHL, 10 days ago. Well, he signed to a deal, but if they play this summer, he can't play for them. He can't play till next season. So we're in a very strange situation. But I think the league has to leave all its options open, and I think they may have to open the possibility to warm people up to this by having future considerations deals, which I don't think they allow anymore.
Let me ask you this question, and again, this is all speculative, I get it, but let's say that they are making these deals for future considerations. As you said, the 2 general managers will know what that deal is for. What happens, like, do you think the player would know that the
Yeah.
deal has gone down? Or what happens if word leaks and then all of a sudden it comes out in the media what the deal is?
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? Is and I know in this day and age, it's leaking out because you tell two friends and they tell two friends, and that's the issue they're going to have to deal with. Is you're right. You could easily have a player suiting up in the summer for a team that's maybe if they go with the 2014 tournament or whatever format they do, you could easily have a player who's suiting up for a team who knows that, once this long off season ends, they're headed somewhere else. And I guess that would be the downside to allowing future consideration deals. And that's why it's so important to figure this out and get it right.
Hey, before I ask you more about league stuff, being that you cover the Senators on a daily basis, I want to ask you about Anthony Duclair, who's a guy that he was loved here when he played here. Fans loved him, did a good job, despite what some people in the media say. John Tortorella liked him, and they got along well while he was here. What a season he had this year at the beginning, where he was just on fire. 20 goals. I mean, he scored a hat trick against the Blue Jackets, as a matter of fact. Went to the All-Star game. What happened to Anthony Duclair after the All-Star break?
I don't know. I think what the biggest thing that happened to him was, it started he lost his confidence. And you know what happens when you lose your confidence? Then it starts to snowball on you. And I think that's what happened to him. Was it just he got into such a rut that then he couldn't do anything right. And there were some games where DJ Smith actually ended up benching him near the end. I think a bit of it was pressure. I think that there was there was some contract pressure there as well. He's going to get a deal one way or another. He's going to sign a deal here because he'll either sign a deal through arbitration or he'll sign an extension. I think a bit of it may have become he may have thought about the fact that the longer this rut went, the more he was costing himself some money, and I don't think there's any question in the end he did. But I can tell you the players around, as you said, people like Anthony Duclair. They enjoy being around him. I think one of the keys for DJ Smith was early on. He said to Anthony Duclair, don't worry about making a mistake. Just play on. And I think at the end, when there was accountability involved, that's where he struggled a little bit. But one of the things I really liked about DJ was using Anthony on the penalty kill, gave him an expanded role, made him an important player on this team. And I think going forward, I think he'll be an important player for them.
It's funny as you're saying all that. I think that's the exact same story as John Tortorella. I mean, it became every time that there were problems with him here, and what problems meaning when he would get healthy scratched, it was usually because of the losing the focus on playing the 200-foot game. There's no doubt he's got offensive ability and he's got that great speed. It was when he started to lack the defensive ability to play the game is when he would get in trouble with Torts.
Yeah, and I think that's where DJ was trying to make him important by being on the penalty kill, right? And look, the guy's got great speed, but he was saying he hadn't killed penalties since junior. So I think when he comes back next year, he's going to be just as an important player for this team.
Talking with Bruce Garrioch. I'm talking with Bruce Garrioch here, who's from Postmedia, covers the Ottawa Senators, contributes on TSN for them. And Bruce, let's get back to talking about the league here. We've talked all about the draft and the possibility of having the draft, but you've said it a couple of times, if they return to play, and it's not a foregone conclusion that this league is going to return to play sometime in July, August, whatever it is. But what are you hearing? What sense are you getting from the executives that you talk to throughout the league about, is this really going to happen or not?
Well, I think like everybody else, they're hopeful. But the thing that people have to realize too, Bob, is they have to make plans. And I know that it feels like we read one plan one day and one plan the next day. And I think we've seen more of that in Major League Baseball than we've seen anywhere else during kind of this pause. I think the NBA and the NHL have been fairly consistent in how they're planning their return. I think Major League Baseball at times has been all over the place, but in talking to league executives, they Bob, they're keeping their options open. They're talking about the option of bringing back all 31 teams. They're talking about the option of bringing back all 24 teams, and they're talking about the option of just bringing back 16 teams. Now, you know and I know 16 teams isn't going to happen. It's not realistic. It's not fair. It doesn't. It would leave too many teams with a sour taste in their mouth. I think that if they drop the bottom 7 teams like Ottawa, Anaheim, LA, Detroit, those teams, I don't think there would be any pushback from those teams whatsoever. My sense is that as we sit here today, sorry about that, the most likely scenario is the 24-team scenario. Now, you could call me next week, and I'm going to say, as I sit here today, I'm going to tell you the most likely scenario is their 31-team scenario. One thing I think we've noticed through this is it's a moving target because nobody knows when the world is going to get back to its new normal. I think that the National Hockey League remains hopeful that they're going to play this summer. I think they absolutely have to make these plans because if they do get a green light to go in 4 cities, North America, they need to be ready. And obviously Columbus is looked at as one of those locations.
Yeah, that's been talked about. In fact, I covered it pretty extensively last week. And there is, look, everything in sports, every time people ask me, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Not just in sports. Let's be honest, Bruce, it's in life. I always tell them follow the money. And the fact is there are a lot of reasons for all of these leagues to get their games in. There's a lot of reasons for the NBA to get back on the court. Baseball, of course, never even got to start this year. They want to get going. But for the NHL, there's a lot at stake here for the players and the way this affects the salary cap and the way it affects their escrow. So is that the reason that there seems to be some pretty good harmony and unity between the league and the Players Association right now?
Yeah, because I think, as you know, if they don't play, it's $1 billion loss. If they can play, they at least satisfy. They're obviously going to have to play with no fans in the stands, as we know. But if they do, if they do play, then maybe they can cut that loss by $500 million. And that would certainly, the players next year, if they don't play, are probably looking at a 35 to 40% escrow. They don't want to pay that. They don't want to pay the 12 or 14% they're playing this year. And yeah, I mean, the league could somehow ease that by negotiating escrow, different escrow levels over a number of years. But the players, I kind of find it funny that when you hear players talking about the fact that they don't want to come back and play. I think if they talk to their agents and their agents told them how much this could cost them if they don't play, I think they'd change their tune.
Yeah, that's a good point. Have you talked to many players about their feelings about coming back? And because they're going to have to make some sacrifices too, especially if they go with this 4-city idea. They are going to be put into a hotel. They're possibly quarantined. Who the heck knows how it's going to work? Have you talked to many players as far as their opinions on this?
Yeah, the sense I get from players is, look, they're trying to stay ready. I say that I've spoken with Bob are preparing to come back and trying to stay ready to come back. But I just feel like with each passing day, but I just feel like May is a pivotal month for certainly 31 teams. I think if you go into June, then you start having to really think about the 24-team idea. And I just think that I think the players are trying to stay ready. But this is day 57 or 58 with no sports, and certainly doesn't feel like there's any end in sight.
No, there doesn't. I saw your tweet where somebody said, I think in Ontario, you can start to golf on May the 24th or something. And that still feels like it's a year away at this point.
Yeah. Like it feels like an eternity from now, and just because I always send to my closest friends a text every morning, and I welcome them to, today I said, welcome to Groundhog Day 67 with a bunch of emojis, because every deal, every day just feels the same right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Let me ask you this question to kind of wrap things up. So now we've kind of put it into perspective. Looks like there could be a draft sometime in June. Looks like the league might return sometime, hopefully July. Will people like you and I get back into a building anytime soon, or how are they going to change the coverage of professional hockey?
It's interesting because I've had this discussion with other media people. I don't see it. I don't see us, me, and this is just an opinion. I don't see media people being actually in the building if the league does come back. I think that we'll be asked to work remotely. I think that one of the things certainly that has been learned from this pause is that we can do discussions like this through Zoom. And I could totally see a scenario, Bob, where people are calling games off monitors. Where the understanding I've gotten is that the people in buildings will be the absolute minimum number that's needed. And if they think that I can watch a game on TV and you can broadcast off a monitor in your studio, I think that might be the way they go. I really do. And that's just based on my discussions with some other media people who, certainly in the television industry, that I stay in touch with regularly, because those guys always know what the league is thinking, and their thinking is that it would basically be technicians, it would be broadcast, minimum number of broadcast trucks in the loading docks to provide all the local maybe 2 trucks to provide all the local broadcasts with their broadcasts. You're probably looking at 3 games a day. It's a mountainous task.
Yeah, and then what I really wonder, even if they come back under that situation, what I really wonder is whenever the 2020-2021 season starts, if it'll continue that way, or if we're ever going to get back to what has been normal procedure in the league.
Yeah, I kind of get the sense that this would be the way they'd finish for now, but they're only pushing back because they want to return to close to normal, right? And they want to do it. They have a better chance of having fans in the stands in December and us in our usual seats than maybe they do if they started in September. And I think that's why we've heard so much speculation about December.
Crazy times for sure, Bruce. Hey, thanks for covering it also very well for me. I really do appreciate it. Great to talk to you, and hang tight there in Ontario until you're finally able to go out and do some of the things that you enjoy to do that you haven't been able to do for the past 2 months.
Great. Thanks very much. Take care.
Bruce Garrioch from Postmedia in Canada. He writes that Sunday column all across Canada that, as he says, it's the best. Well, as Jeff Rimmer says, it's the best in Canada. And Bruce Garrioch is never going to argue with Jeff Rimmer. Hey, before I go, I want to remind you about Cam Atkinson's virtual 5K that he has going to benefit his foundation, the Force Network Fund virtual 5K. It's going to take place June 4th through the 7th. And you have until the end of May to sign up, and you get some great things. You get a medal, you get a T-shirt that goes right along with it. So make sure that you get signed up. All you have to do is go to fnf5k.com, the Force Network Fund virtual 5K. Cam Atkinson raising money to help first responders. You can be a big part of that just by logging on and registering for that 5K. That's going to do it for today's edition of CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Until next time, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.